How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome to the Zoom. Glad to have you all.
Um, just put in the chat how your week's been. If you've underwritten deals, if you need anything, or if you need the actual napkin underwriting doc, please let us know in the chat. Let us know if you have any questions before we get started. Let us know just how you're doing. I think that'll be fun. Let me do. What am I looking for? That's what I'm looking for. All right. We'll give it a couple more minutes. Let some people jump in. Is it anyone's first time on this call? Don't all jump out at once, please.
If so, hey, awesome. Victor, welcome, man. Glad to have you. All right, Caleb, awesome. Welcome to the Zoom.
Where are you guys from, by the way? Fred, nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. Just put where you're from. If it's your first time, if you have been here before but haven't shared, let me actually do this as well.
All right, a lot of first timers here tonight, Ed.
Oh, Vegas. You shouldn't have.
Ed was just in Vegas. Surprised he came back.
I love that I hate that city, or I hate that I love that city. No, that sounded better. I hate that I love that city. Charlotte, North Carolina. Very cool, very cool. Copy link. Okay. So since there are a good amount of you first time, I did post the so that link is the docs, is a spreadsheet for the calculator we'll be going over. And guys, also feel free to give us any suggestions. Like, hey, I was trying this with the calculator and I had this obstacle, or something wasn't adding up right here. Guys, at the end of the day, it's a breathing, growing spreadsheet. Our goal is to make it as refined and as easy to use as possible, but also as serve the highest purpose in what you're trying to do. So please, please, please let us know if you have any issues, troubles, anything you think we should improve or change. We're open to being as flexible as you need us to be. I know I've mentioned this before with but with Will and Aldo here now, since the last few weeks we've been on here, we are gonna eventually, I don't know when, possibly work on just building a more advanced one together. We did discuss a little yesterday, so it's in the works. There's just a lot of moving parts, and there's a few things we want to do with that. One, we want something that'll be able to show you a quick turnaround, but also something that can show you 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out, and so on and so forth. So it's gonna be cool. It's gonna take some work on our end, so just give us a little bit of time. But we're hoping to get that to you guys as well. That should be fun. Are there any other questions? Cool. So I guess we can start off. We're almost 5 after. Doesn't hurt to start a minute early. But essentially what we are doing here today is just another wonderful Tuesday night. We are here every week, as you can see, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we're here just to make sure that we can help you with the napkin underwriting. You know, it can be intimidating if it's something you haven't done before, and it can feel very overwhelming if people are like, or if you just want to underwrite it and have never really done it. So we're here to kind of be that foot in the door. As we say, the napkin underwriting is just to see if a deal's worth diving more into. We're trying to save you time, give you guys a little bit of background. And I feel like we have an amazing team. We'll introduce ourselves in a little bit, but it's been fun and exciting these last few weeks. I'm excited to keep this going, and we're just going to quickly go over the agenda for today, and I'll let Will handle that.
Awesome, Ed. Thanks for the intro, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight. We're super excited to have you here. And yeah, so we just want to kind of talk through what the flow is going to be tonight. So first of all, yeah, Ed, thanks for that intro. We're going to introduce ourselves, and then we want at least one of you to introduce yourselves this evening. So feel free to go ahead and raise your hand if you would like to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are. Get known. We want to know who you are. And so we'll be making those intros here very shortly. To all of the first timers here on the call, super excited to have you. And I hope that you find some value from the Zoom this evening. So after the introductions, we're going to go into our ecosystem and kind of learn a little bit more about all the various Zooms that you can have access to through this community. And if this is your first MFC Zoom, we're just super excited to have you guys. And yeah, we'll look forward to sharing a little bit more about our greater ecosystem that we provide. One thing that we've started doing here recently in the last few weeks with this Zoom is doing some sort of educational piece as well, because we want to ensure that we're providing value to you, and that this is not just, obviously this Zoom is all about napkin underwriting, and we want to do that, but we also want to try and provide you all some value. And so tonight, Ed's going to talk a little bit about exit underwriting. If you were with us last week, we talked about the going in cap rate, and tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about the exit portion of the calculator and kind of what you should be looking for. So, and then after that, it's your turn to shine. So we want to know, hopefully you all brought some deals this evening. If not, I know we have a couple here in the community that we can pull up. And so, but we'll pull out the napkin after we kind of go through the extra underwriting portion, and then of course leave it open for some questions as well. So so who are we? Ed, feel free to give us a little quick rundown. Who's Ed? Oh,
As mentioned, my name is Edward, based out of Los Angeles, California. Have been in real estate for about 5 years now. Had my licensed agent out here. Got into the investing circle because I didn't like the transactional kind of day-to-day of the agent life. Then found multifamily, owned some stuff here in LA. Looking to invest in LA in my backyard, but also in the more landlord-friendly states like the Sun Belt area. But yeah, I love it out here in LA. I wish it was easier to own more property, but it is what it is. And I just call it a different type of investment. So please let me know how I can help, and if there's anything I can do to assist you guys. I would love to be able to give my time, work with you, and make sure that I can help you with any of your questions regarding multifamily or real estate in general.
awesome. Thank you, Ed. And again, my name is Will Otis. I'm with Stoke Holding Solutions, and my business partner and my ride or die since 2005. Unfortunately, Aldo's not with us this evening, but he may be jumping on here if he can in about 30 minutes or so. But anyway, just a little bit about us. We have spent the last 13 years working in the senior living space. And a couple of years ago decided to kind of branch out a little bit and start doing our own thing. And we are based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. We primarily focus on value add properties in the Chattanooga, Birmingham, and Knoxville markets, and typically look for 50 plus units, kind of $10 million and below. That's a little bit about our buy box and what we look for. But yeah, we're super glad to have you guys here. Super thankful to be a part of this, the multifamily freedom chasers community, and we're glad that you guys are here joining us this evening. So that's just a little bit about who we are and what we're about. Go to the next slide here. So who would like to tell us a little bit about themselves? So feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to get known. We'd love to allow you to, just really short, about 1 minute, who you are, where you're from, and if no one raises their hand, I'll have to pick someone here pretty soon.
I definitely look someone who it's their first time. Okay, perfect.
All right,
go for it, Jaden.
Jaden, go ahead.
Afternoon, guys.
What's up?
Hey, so,
how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Yourselves?
Good, good seeing you
Hey,
again.
so happy to be on. I kind of got started in well, I guess over my say 20 years of being married or so, we've bought a little dinky house that we fixed up and sold, and well, we kept that as a rental, and then we bought another house, which we later sold the rent house so that we could fix that one up. And it was just maybe 30,000, 40,000 more than the other, and we kind of kept doing that. Working our way up the food chain, so to speak. And then now we're at that point where we're thinking we're going to get into rental. So this place that I'm in right now, we're kind of setting up as a rehab project for an Airbnb. So then I ended up getting into Grant Cardone's real estate summit, which ultimately led me into this real estate club. That's kind of where I first learned how to napkin underwrite and whatnot, and began to realize, hey, more than an Airbnb or single family, I'd rather be in multifamily. Maybe storage, self-storage also, but multifamily is kind of my primary goal moving forward, I guess. So if anybody is wanting to try to connect, I currently live in Washington State, and I don't recommend long-term rentals here in Washington. So I grew up in Oklahoma. That's kind of where I'm looking primarily. I got a lot of friends and family there that can help me if anyone ever wants to connect in Oklahoma. I'm also looking in kind of Houston and Dallas areas and Florida, and anywhere where you guys already have boots on the ground and you're just looking for somebody to help underwrite. Or I was in the construction industry for a long time. I've framed up about 200 homes. So I've got some idea of how we can do estimates and rehabbing. So that's kind of my background. My background has primarily been construction prior to this. So
Awesome, man.
Wherever I can add value, I'd be happy to.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, we're glad you're here tonight. Thanks for turning on your camera and introducing yourself. And we want to see your faces, guys. So turn on your cameras. All I see right now is Jaden and Andrea. So hopefully there's a few more. We'd love to see your faces and get to know you guys a little bit more. But man, thanks for jumping on here tonight. Thanks for sharing a little bit more about who you are, what you're doing. Good seeing you again, brother.
And real quick, I want to add this. First off, hit all the points that we're looking for. Essentially, when you're introducing yourself, we want you to say who you are, where you're from, where you have connections and relationships, where you're looking to purchase, and what your superpower is. So thank you for knocking all that out. Also, I'm going to say this every week. I am posting in the chat right now 2 links. One of them is the directory sheet. The other one is the directory form. Now, you fill out the form, and your name automatically and the information gets filled onto the sheet. So what that sheet is essentially a directory of everyone in our community who's filled it out to allow us to give you something that you can connect outside of these calls. Obviously, we want you in here on all the calls, but life happens. Some of you have W-2s, for example, Marcel, Trevor, Victor, I know Peter, and actually these guys as well, Will, and almost everyone here has W-2s, so it's not easy to be on every call, and you have families and whatnot. So we created that directory in order to put give everyone a resource and somewhere where they can go and just access other people in the areas they're looking to purchase. Now, if you're looking in LA and I'm from Los Angeles, to hit me up. If you're looking in Oklahoma, now hey, Jaden's the person to reach out to. And that's what we're trying to do. So use that resource, fill out the form. It only helps to grow, and share with anyone else you think that might be interested in being having their contact out there. And I think that's the biggest thing we're trying to do. At the end of the day, we're trying to create a community. To briefly go over what this community does and how our week looks like. As you can see, Sundays, we have the activation Zoom. It's high energy. It is 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And what was it? This last Sunday we had Michael Blank, so we're trying to bring the big hitters. We've had Robert Martinez, Vina, and just amazing guests week in and week out. And it's a great way to kickstart the week. The replays are on YouTube, so if you have missed any of them, please check them out. I highly recommend them. If you have seen, or if you were there live, I recommend watching some of them again. I'm sure some of you already have. And then Mondays is where we reach out to brokers, where Peter and myself kind of just set up a platform where you can reach out to brokers. We call them and go over how to discuss and find deals and get in their VIP list and just build that relationship. This is a relationship business. I'm not a big sales fan, but I am a relationship fan. And I think it's very important to be able to understand what these brokers are looking for. Me being licensed, I kind of speak their talk, so that helps me a lot and allows me to help you guys. And Peter is amazing on the phones, and that's probably an understatement. So you guys are all here tonight, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. You know what we do. We're here to help you with napkin underwriting and give you guys that base and platform where going forward, you know what's a deal and what's not, you know whether you should dive deeper or not, and just give everyone like a general idea of how this multifamily game is played, and just go over the complications that you may have. So please let us know whatever questions you have, as I mentioned, whether it's underwriting or multifamily in general. And then we are a versatile group. So on Wednesdays, either 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern, make sure you key the time difference each week. 7 p.m. on the Wednesdays, we have multi-financing with the Miles family. Amazing people, and they are very knowledgeable in the debt space. You really want to jump into that, especially with so much going on. I feel like it changes every day, and if you're not keeping up, you're falling behind, and it's just the reality of it. So we have amazing people in position to help you and guide you in that direction. So make sure you're here on Wednesdays. And then when we don't have the lovely couple, we have Mr. Victor himself with the advanced underwriting, which kind of dives deeper than what we discuss here. We can only cover so much in the hour we're online. We want to make sure you have access to multiple different resources, diving deeper into the craziness that is multifamily, and the economic impact of what's going on. So as you can see, we offer a lot. Feel free to reach out to us in different avenues, whether it's on Facebook, check out the YouTube, and all the social media networks. And if there's anything else that you'd like us to cover, please reach out to us. If there's anything you would like to essentially possibly host once a week, as you can see, we have slots available. You know, if you feel you want to talk and you have a passion about something, you want to lead in the community, feel free to reach out to us. You know, we all started as guests, funny enough. So it's a way to just put your name out there and give value, which is what we all pride ourselves in, and being able to give value to the community. So if anyone else has any questions, please let us know in the chat. But this is the rundown of our week. Very straightforward. Take a screenshot of this page so you don't forget. And yeah, we can move on to the next.
Yeah, so again, here's just our quick contact information. Feel free to take a screenshot of this as well if you guys ever need any help, or if there's anything we can do to support you during the week, or if you have a deal you'd like to send to us kind of ahead of time. We always love to be able to take a look at the deals before we jump on this Zoom. And again, hopefully someone here on the call brought a deal with them. We'd love to be able to take a look at that and underwrite that with you this evening. If not, we have some things on backup that we can use this evening. But again, here's our contact information. Would love to hear from you guys. So with that, I'm going to kind of pass it off to Ed now, and we're going to talk a little bit about exit underwriting and things that you should know. So Ed, take it away, brother.
I appreciate that. Do you have the calculator shared on your screen, or should I try pulling it up? You're on mute.
Sorry, man. Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay, cool. So I can just start, and then while we'll pull that up. So what do we mean by exit underwriting? It simply what it is if you guys have noticed in the past few weeks, we've really been talking about what the current property is doing, how it's performing. It's a lot of what are the current expense ratios, what are the current rents, how do you find these things? what is the class of the property, what is the class of the area, and how does that impact the numbers, because everything's a factor in this space, which is something to keep in mind as well. It's not just the numbers, but it's where, location, and all those different factors. So what the exit is essentially is like, okay, now what is our goal? And exit doesn't mean you sold. I want to make that clear as well. Exit just means like you're either exiting from your capital investment, which is good, because that means you're paying your investors back, or through a refinance, or you may be selling, which is not necessarily a bad strategy if you are upgrading. And at the end of the day, I personally have always been of the mindset of don't sell if you don't have to, but that's just me. Sometimes you may have to, or sometimes like there's so many different scenarios that could happen. So the exit napkin is like, okay, what is our objective? Where are we trying to get to, and how are we going to get there? And that really clears up and like paints a picture of, does this make sense? And is it worth the time and effort? Because at the end of the day, we may analyze a lot of deals, we may get a lot of deals sent to us, but this isn't like single family where you can have like 10 things going on at the same time, right? It's not that straightforward. You don't want to spread yourself too thin. You don't want to take on more than you have the resources for. And you want to tread carefully, because if you have two deals, let's say, operating at the same time, or you bought one, numbers aren't looking how they are, you don't love it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, we could take on another one and make it up for it, that you're treading dangerous waters at that point. You want to make sure that you're putting all your efforts into that one deal, and you know what you're expecting to get out of it. So here's a napkin. Thank you, Will, for sharing the screen. And essentially what we're going to go through is, how do we go through each line, and how does it affect our decision making? And I briefly want to touch on this as well. In this market, especially after the highs that we had the past few years, I would say like 21, middle 22, sellers that didn't get it, that missed that wave and missed that very high price, don't know kind of where to price their property at. And I think that's something to keep in mind. It's not maybe they do know and just ignoring it, but when you see enough sellers and you see enough properties listed at a high price, it really comes down to we don't know where to price properties. The debt market, their interest rates are changing so quickly, it is kind of hard to gauge. So what's happening is you are most likely going to see more properties overpriced than you are, oh, I'll buy that at the price they're asking off the jump. It's just, if that's the case, there's something they're not telling you, or there's something wrong, or there's a catch, or not saying every time, but I bet money on most, right? So keep in mind that your entry point and the numbers you're going to write and go into the deal, you are going to be a little higher than that number, or lower than the number they're asking. And where you want to make up for it, and obviously this depends on your negotiation, is what does the exit look like? What does it look like on the back end? How much value can you add to this? And at the end of the day, how much value can you add to your investors? A lot of people with money are very hesitant right now. At least that's what my circle has been telling me. So what deal are you bringing to your investors to be like, hey, look at XYZ. This is why this is a good deal. And through building trust and them trusting you and the industry you're in, you will then have that capital backing you, right? So to quickly go through line by line on this napkin, or the exit. Average rent is very self-explanatory. But here's where it's really, really important, and you'll hear me say this a lot, is know your market. And it can't be more true in any time than now. Simply because if you, for example, think about where you live, in the house you live in the city you live in. If I told you, hey, there's rent for a 2-bedroom, the rent is X dollar now, whatever that number may be, you tell me whether that's high, low, or reasonable. I can do it in my city and in my surrounding area, no doubt about it. Or you're going to question the condition, is kind of the bottom line. If you tell me you can get a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom in my city for $1,000, I'm worried. Like, where are the walls? Like, is it standing still? Is the building even there? You know, that doesn't make sense. Like, being in Los Angeles, that's unheard of. Now, if you told me it's $5,000, unfortunately, I'd be like, okay, it's not anything I haven't seen before, but that's on the higher end. You know, now if you tell me 10,000, I'm like, okay, I know where that is. It's definitely not very close to me, but it's far enough where I can drive, or close enough where I can drive, right? So even if you cross over a street, and this has happened to me before, where I'm looking at a property and just crossing the street, the rents changed 30%. I don't know why. I don't live there. But in every city, you have components and factors like that that you need to be aware of. So be careful on your average rent on your exit and your pro forma rent. And here's another thing as well when you're talking to a broker that's important. If you have an OM, which is an offering memorandum, usually a broker will put that together when a property is listed. They're gonna have market rent, and then they may have pro forma rent. If they have both, you can differentiate it, you know the difference. But if they only have one, it's really, really important to understand what condition those rents are being priced at. So if you get an OM and you have 2 sets of rents, the current and whatever they say the market is, you always want to find out, are those rents projected in the current condition? If not, and it's like, oh, if it's a rehab up to the T, updated, everything looks great, it's a beautiful property, then you're gonna be like, okay, then you're going to know what you need to do to get to those numbers. And then the question you ask is, which will help in the underwriting, is how much rehab have you estimated to get to that high end, highest price point, projected rent? Because they should know the building better than you do. Unfortunately, they don't always do, whether it's a broker or seller, but they should. Especially if they're experts in the area. I'd like to believe a commercial broker would be able to tell you a good idea of what the rehab is, good idea of what the high-end finishing is in that area. And I think one more thing to keep in mind, and I was having this conversation with someone before or today, is it's really area dependent. Like, you're not putting the nicest finishing and the nicest units in every city. It's just the reality of it. Or in every sub market of a city, especially when you get to the larger cities. LA is massive. If you did everything the same in every city in LA, you're gonna lose money. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And Will brings up a good question actually in the chat that I'm happy he mentioned, is how do you find pro forma average rents? Does anyone have anywhere that they look, or any suggestions on their end? I have a few of the obvious ones, but I'm curious to see how everyone else does it. Put it in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and talk, please feel free. I use Rentometer just to guide me. I'm not married to it. Yeah, go for it, Jaden. I'd love to hear your answer.
I've actually gone to, like, say, apartment.com or rent.com and literally just looked, what are the going rates right now? The important thing is making sure you're looking at a similar class. So you look at, because of the way it's going to get underwritten, you need to look at stuff that looks like the way the property looks like now. So if your property is looking like a C or C minus, and you think you can bring it up to a C plus or B minus, you still need to look at rents at the C or C minus for underwriting. That'll tell you what kind of loan you can get. But what do you think you can get once it's fixed up? Now you need to look at apartments that look like what yours are going to look like. And then look at the rents in that area. So, you know, if the rents look like they're 500 in the current condition, but looks like you can get 600, then now you know what kind of a value add you have. And that'll give you an idea on your underwriting where you can go to on your new value.
Absolutely. And you bring up a very good point. it's important to know both actually. And what idea and what you kind of brought to me or made me think about is if you need to do, let's say, $20,000 worth of rehab on just one unit, for example, and like Jaden was saying, it's X dollar amount in current condition, but you know you're gonna have to do $20,000 worth of work to get it to, let's say, from 500 to 600. Is that worth it? Not for everyone. Maybe it's not. So it's like, okay, do we even bother rehabbing if it's in good enough condition where we can just sit on the 500 rent, not deal with the downtime, because obviously when the unit's being rehabbed, you can't rent it out. Is that $100 difference worth the $20,000 investment? Maybe not. Obviously, that's a very easy example, but you get the idea of make sure the rehab is worth the return. And I appreciate you for mentioning that because it is important. One more thing that I think is important as well, and obviously it is a little harder to project because you're not necessarily turning this unit over overnight, but it's important to see, like, for example, on a Zillow of what is your current competition? Like, what are the other units on the market asking for rent? I don't even care if they've closed or if they've been rented out. Is how long have they been on the market? Because every day they're on the market, that's dollars you're paying out of pocket, right? So that's important when you get to the average rent, your rehab costs, and what all that means. And then obviously comes with to quickly go over it. And we're going to continue this more because we do want to talk about the cap rate on next week's Zoom with based on the purchase price, but the expense percentage is very important in a sense of if you are doing rehab and you are increasing income, your expense percentage could, I really hope, is less than what they're operating at today. And that expense ratio, 50 is kind of like the unspoken basically like rule of thumb in a sense. If it is less, that's not a bad thing. It's still possible. If it's a lot more, you want to know why. Is it a bad management thing? Is it a low income thing? Is it a combination of the two? And also it's important to know that your taxes are going to increase. Your insurance is going to increase from what the seller is currently paying. That's going to change your expense ratio as well. So as much as you're adding value, you're also increasing your expense cost. If you're bringing on a property management company that previously wasn't an expense, that's something to factor. So there's a lot of components that go into expense ratio. It's just really important to understand what it is. And the T12, we do have a week where we went over the T12. It's important to understand those expenses. So check that out on YouTube for sure. And you'll be able to see what we're talking about. So that's basically everything on that side that we want to cover today, because the rest are a little more, they kind of need their own week, essentially. We don't want to do too much at once, and we don't want to speed by anything. Last week we spent the entire call talking about the going in cap rate. So we're going to do the NOI cap rate based on purchase price, sale price, and the exit cap rate, and everything below that next week, most likely. So that's just an idea of what the exit napkin underwriting on the top half has to deal with. Obviously, I can go on forever talking about this stuff because there's so many different things going on. But you just want to make sure that you know the property and know the area. I think that's the most important thing when you are exiting in anything or doing any underwriting, because if you don't know where you're underwriting, you don't know the rehab costs or what's the norm out there for a property management company, it just can throw your numbers off, and you don't want to find out the hard way or waste more time than you have to. That's never fun. Are there any questions, or does anyone want to add anything on that topic? I know I kind of rambled for a long period of time. If anyone has anything they want to add or jump in, please feel free.
Did you guys get any value from that? If you did, throw some fires in the chat, throw some gems, whatever it is, show Ed some love. Ed, appreciate you doing that, man. And yeah, again, and I appreciate everyone kind of jumping in there on the chat too, and giving some suggestions on how that you find average rents, especially the pro forma, because that can be a little daunting, especially when you're first learning how to underwrite, on these exit especially on the exit, trying to figure out what your exit is. How do you figure that out? And so I think there's been some awesome suggestions there. Apartments.com, various different websites you can jump on. The OMs are another great source, because typically they'll have the market rate on there. But if you really don't know the market, reach out to your broker too. I mean, the brokers, that's sometimes one of the best ways to figure out what the average rent is projecting in 5 years from now. So
sorry, I want to add one thing to that. It's not only your brokers, but it's your property management company. They're gonna want your business. They're gonna work for you. So they should know better than anyone, because that's what they do. And especially I try to focus on the ones closest to the property that you're trying to acquire or you're underwriting. So you can also understand what the traffic is like. Like, hey, how quickly do you lease units out? How quickly are you from putting a sign up to renting out the unit? Those are all important questions that property management companies should answer, especially you're kind of interviewing them, which you should be doing multiple of those companies, and they'll be able to get you the best insight.
Awesome. And so right before we go to Andrea, if anyone has a deal, please feel free to raise your hand, because we'd like to move into that section. But yeah, Andrea, go for it.
Also going to say thank you guys for at least putting out the recommendation of how to find good comps. One thing I wanted you guys, just to remind people to know, whenever I'm doing comps, I have to do average comps for as is and as rehab. I always ask the broker for those as well, but it's very helpful so that whenever you're looking at a property, if your subject property is built in 1970, you obviously want to know the comps average for that type of build, but also what's newly renovated. So it's awesome that there's so many resources, like you said, apartments.com, your broker, even looking on Google, searching nearby. So that's great that you guys can put that in.
Awesome.
And to your point, you want to make sure there's pictures. Just because they tell you a 2-in-1 similar size renting for X amount is in similar condition, until you see a picture, I'm hesitant. And that's one thing I don't like is there's no picture.
Where are the walls, like you said?
Yeah, it's like running comps on a single family property, but there's no pictures. How do you know if it's rehabbed or needs rehab? Don't leave it to chance. That's one piece of advice. Don't leave any of this up to chance, because you're really rolling the dice at that point. I appreciate that input. I agree for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, good seeing you. All right, David, what's up, brother? Good seeing you, man.
How's it going? Yeah, good to see you guys too.
Yeah, welcome back, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've got a deal. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I've got the OM. I've kind of put the information in the Excel sheet. So is that
let's talk through it. And
okay.
What I'll do is, we'll start on the left-hand side here, and I'll just ask some questions, and you guys kind of tell us a little bit about it. So let's start off with, first tell us a little bit about the property, kind of, what are you looking at? And then we'll go into, what their asking price is, kind of what the current average rents are, and so forth.
So David,
briefly about the property.
Yeah, David, real quick, feel free to give as much information as you're comfortable giving. Obviously, if it's a deal you're pursuing, no one here is gonna take it, but
yeah,
because it is published like YouTube and all that stuff, I just be aware of that. So
no, I got you.
Just say whatever.
Honestly, this is more of just like a practice deal.
Sure.
If that's cool too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, because this is something I think my broker might have mentioned this. But should I just send you the link you can pull up on your screen, or should I share my screen, or?
Yeah, we can do either one. If
is
it's
it also
easier...
our same calculator?
Yeah, I have the calculator pulled up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well then let's just pull up yours.
Click on the top right where you see the share button on Will's screen. Click that and invite Will, so then he can access it, because then we can make edits at the same time as well. So it's an easy way for us to do
Okay.
that.
Uh,
Where is this deal located?
That's in Dalton, Georgia. That's a pretty small town. It's like 30 to 40,000 people.
David, you're in Atlanta, right?
Yes, I'm in Atlanta.
Okay.
But I'm kind of looking just like all over Georgia. And also, so the screen sharing is it's a host disabled it. So I don't know if one of you needs to share the screen. We don't need to look at the OM.
Yeah,
I
do you
can
want
just
to pull it
tell
up?
you, I can just tell you the numbers if you want. But
Yeah, I think, okay, try it again.
oh, okay, there we go. All right, can you see that?
Cool. Yep, got it.
Okay. Just gonna move that. So yeah, here is the property. It's 112 units, built 1968, but I think it was recently renovated. Like I said, it's in Dalton, Georgia, so that's, for those that don't know, that's pretty far north, like close to the Tennessee border, North Carolina, Tennessee border, somewhere up there. So yeah, the average rents are about 870. I can just pull the OM. And so one thing that's interesting about this deal is it has an assumable loan, and that's kind of why I wanted to pull this up and get you guys like take on it to see how you guys look at that, because I don't really know how to underwrite that, because I'm just learning how to underwrite in general. But yeah, so this is kind of stuff I put into the calculator. This is what we've got so far. It's kind of the unit breakdown, which we got an average rent of 870, with 112 units. And they're asking 14 million for it. And so what would be best for me to show you guys right now?
Yeah. I'm actually fairly familiar with this deal.
I was about to say this looks familiar for me too.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I think there's actually someone else brought this one up before too. So
Oh, for real? That's funny.
yeah, that's let's see here. If you want to go back to the calculator, let's just kind of walk through that really quick.
Yeah.
So what we have here is average rent currently is 870, 112 units, 90% occupied. Now, did you confirm that with the broker?
No, I
Is still 90%? Okay. So you're just underwriting it at 90%.
just from the OM, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
That is one of the scenarios where it's important to ask what condition that pro forma is based on. Because
Okay.
obviously you're jumping from 870 to what was the number? 90?
I think it was just saying that like
893, yeah. If you scroll down, it said 893. Well, actually, what is that?
this is the rent growth.
Scroll down for a sec. Scroll down real quick. Just scroll down a little bit. Stop. Okay, so you
Oh,
see
here we
how actual 870 and then market 893.
Yeah.
Now scroll back up a little bit.
Mhm.
One more right there. Okay, and
Yeah.
then you see the average market rents. Okay, so you see there's a discrepancy. Just scroll up to make sure it's not based on a unit size. No. Okay, so when you have any OM that has multiple numbers like that of the different rent amounts, there's a good chance some are the rehab and some are just as is condition. It's important to differentiate the two, and like I was mentioning earlier, to make sure you have that difference down. But also it's important to know, like, okay, do they have a rehab budget? Like, if you're giving me the pro forma, the end all be all, like I'm all said and done with the rehab, you're giving me those rents, you should also have an idea, I'm speaking as the broker or seller in this case, of what the rehab is going to cost, because that's an important thing to keep in mind, because it definitely helps with underwriting before having an idea what that rehab can be. Obviously, don't ever be married to that number, because it's never going to be that number, no matter how many times you look at the property. But also remember this, that even if you are a little off, you don't have all the information in front of you. You have things that the seller doesn't even know about. And you're gonna find that out during an inspection. hopefully. I really, really hope so.
Yeah.
It's not, it could cost thousands, right? So that's important to keep in mind as well. What are they basing their numbers off of? Is an important question to ask.
Okay.
So actually what we can do too is that's essentially what this OM is stating, is that is the market projected rate. And so what I typically do too with a napkin is just throw that into your exit. So they're essentially saying that the average market rate rents in the area is $1,145. So what you can do is go back to your calculator and throw that into the right there. Exactly. There you go. Perfect. And then also what I would do is yeah, throw the guidance number in at 14 million down there. There you go. Yep. Perfect. And then yeah, everything else looks pretty good. So yeah, so you know what I would be looking at here is you know, the rents, obviously there's a decent amount of upside on this deal, just because there's quite a bit of loss to lease currently with your average rents. Now, you know, and Ed brought up a really great point on, a good question to ask the broker would be, you know, how many of the units have been turned, you know, how many, what's the average, like how much have they been spending currently on those, on the renovations of the apartments. And because then that will give you a really, good idea of exactly how much rehab costs. Now, based on this, it's estimating $1 million essentially that you're going to need to put into the property just for rehab. So, something to consider there. Going in cap rate at 3.76%,
Yeah, that seems pretty low.
pretty low. And so,
I think they put 5.5. I think 5.5 is what they put in the OM. So
on a cap rate is that's what they're trying to sell it at.
yeah,
They had a lower expense ratio, which is common. They'll put a lower expense ratio, or they're operating at a high occupancy and low vacancy rate. Those are all possible. It's a little risky. So they have it at the exit cap rate, not even entering at 5.5.
oh, that is it. Yeah.
So it does look like is there assumable loan on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing that I was really wondering about was is like how would I like kind of handle this in like the napkin underwriting?
Yeah, great question. So what you can do is, now you'll probably want to get a little bit more information from the broker, but on the loan side of the calculator on the right hand side, what you can do is throw in that 3.72%.
It's 3.72%.
Correct, the 3.72% there. Now, and so this is where the napkin maybe is a little limited because because you're going to, the assumption portion will be at the 3.72, but anything above your assumption, you're going to have to probably get debt at a higher percentage. So Ed, you want to kind of talk into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where I love to play around with assumable loans, and it's really where I start pitching the seller carry as well. If you guys have heard me talk a lot about it. So with that, what I noticed is that it's leverage at 67 or 63% on the OM. Either way, I think it's 63. So that means you have to come up with 37% down payment. Yeah, 63. So you have to come up with 37% down. Now, is that interest rate great at 3.72? 100%.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, it is interest only for 2 years. One more thing I would like to know, in addition to what they've given us, is how much longer post P&I is the loan for. And if I'm saying anything or abbreviating something, you don't know what it is, just jump in and cut me off and I'll explain it. So you have your loan amount at 8.8. Now, down payment for 5.2, I'm gonna be honest, for 14 million, that's a lot,
Yeah.
right? Let me give you an example. And Will, you know a little bit about this one. There's a $14 million property in LA that I'm getting in at, well, I'm trying to negotiate to get in at 2.1. That's 15%. I
Yeah.
can buy almost 3 of those at your 5.2 number. And that's when I turn to the broker and say, if I'm gonna come into a property for 5.2, I'd rather buy 2 $14 million properties than one 14 million. It just, sure, that assumable loan is great, their interest rate's great, but everyone now is marketing assumable loan like it's gold. Which
Yeah.
just in some deals it is, don't get me wrong. But it's, you have to also, it's like, what's my opportunity cost? Because you have to remember this as well. That directly impacts your cash on cash return, which to
Yeah.
some buyers is all they care about. And a lot of investors is what they care about, because it's their cash that number is being held up against, is being compared to, right? And you have to think of it like this: if you're raising 37%, you're
Mm.
giving up a lot.
Yeah.
Like, no easy way to, because you're not getting 37% down payment overnight, and we haven't even counted the rehab yet. You're in this deal almost 45 to 50% skin in the game.
Yeah.
You have a buffer, which is nice when you're trying to do the refi on the back end, because you don't owe a lot on your loan. But it's, to me, this is where I love going to the broker and seller and saying, hey, are you open to sell a carry? And I don't want to go too far away from the underwriting. I want to focus on that a little bit. When you're underwriting a deal, the biggest benefit of the assumable loan, and what a broker will always push and pitch, is you will have higher cash flow. That's just obvious. If I
Yeah.
gave you the same loan at even 5%, you're gonna be like, wow, there goes half my cash flow. It's just the nature of it. So don't get too caught up in the price is gonna be higher naturally because of that as well. So keep that in mind. Anytime there's an assumable loan that they're pushing with a great interest rate like this one, doesn't matter what the down payment is, they're gonna ask for a higher price, just naturally, because you can't get this loan anywhere else. It's not a copy paste thing. This is the only place you're gonna get it, and we're gonna use that to our advantage. So in the underwriting, where you really want to pay attention to how an assumable loan is, and why we call this one the napkin underwriting, is because you're not taking it into account, is you want to understand what the debt is. Like, and you can look at this on the napkin underwriting and just write your own notes on it. That's why I like that it's on Excel, because you have room to add notes. And on every deal, I write notes. So when I say copy your napkin underwriting doc for each property, this is why. I write notes. I'm like, okay, if I have this loan, this interest rate, I can figure out what the monthly payments are. So if I figure out the monthly payments and I have a rough idea of what my income is going to be, like on the exit side, I have an idea of what my expenses are going to be. You just, Excel will give you your cash flow. It's very easy to do. And I'll talk to Will and Aldo. We may, like, that new calculator we make is going to have all these components in it. It's going to have a seller carry component to it, where we factor how you calculate that. So yes, I agree with Will, where the napkin isn't ideal for assumable loans, but it really comes down to, it's just break down the math. How much is that money going to cost? Where am I getting my down payment from, which is hard at that much, and the rehab budget. And you ask the seller, like, or you ask the broker, like, are they willing to carry? Split the difference. 37% going, whatever that is each, 18%, let's say. I'll come in 20, you carry 17. Now you're talking much more attainable, right? So that's how you leverage assumable loan. And be careful on the price, because that is why the going in cap rate is so low.
Yeah, so David, just for kicks and giggles, let's do something really quick. Throw in that 1145 into the napkin underwriting portion on the average rents. So where you have 870 currently, go ahead and throw in that 1145, and let's see what that does. So even if this community, or this property is achieving, that's my senior living side coming out. I apologize, guys. So even if this property was achieving 1145 average rents, 112 units at 90% occupied, you're still coming in at a 4.95 cap on this
Yeah, and
property.
yeah,
So,
this is not a five. I don't think this is a 5 cap area.
right. So, and and you have to think about too, what are you going to be able to get debt at, let's say you refi in, several years. So anyway, just, things to consider. I've looked at this property multiple times. Dalton's like 30 minutes from where I live too. So it's kind of
Oh, where
right
are
in
you at?
between you and I. And I love this property. It's a beautiful property. But unfortunately, a lot of, and hopefully there's not brokers on here, but if there are, I apologize. I know brokers right now are really trying to sell the upside, and I get that. And but yeah, obviously as an investor, you got to try and figure out what's going to make sense for you. So
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate you guys kind of walking me through this. And yeah, like I said, this is really just like an example deal.
yeah, that's awesome, man.
And
No,
I'm
I
still
mean,
pretty
hey,
early on, like, so just
David, you're the first one to come prepared with the napkin filled out. So
Yeah.
kudos to
oh
you, man.
really?
Yeah, so kudos to you, man. So good job. And
Oh, I appreciate it.
Here,
yeah, that's
David,
awesome.
here's one more thing that and why I like to use this seller carry component of it. If you go back to the listing, you see it's been on the market for 150 days.
Yeah,
I'm a firm believer of I'm not reinventing the wheel. I am not seeing anything differently than what the market has seen the last 150 days. The difference, I'm just gonna offer something no one else has. My numbers aren't gonna be different than the previous however many people. Let's say it's one person a day that saw this deal. 150 people have seen the deal at that point. Why have none of them gotten this on the contract? And it hasn't even been touched in 40 days. Think of that. Like I'm a firm believer if I do my underwriting and I think I see one thing, okay, why hasn't anyone else seen that? Now,
yeah,
if I'm offering something on the creative side, that is like the outlier essentially. And someone
yeah.
asked what seller carry is, and I'll get to that in a second. But does that mean it's a bad deal? No. Does it mean it's overpriced? Absolutely.
Mhm.
There's literally nothing, no other
Does
reason
that
why.
so would you, as opposed to like negotiating a lower price, would you just negotiate seller carry instead? Or would you do
Always both. Every
always?
offer I have, and
Yeah.
I think I think I've done it before, but one of these weeks I'll go over my 3 offer LOI again.
Mhm.
Every offer I send out has 3 offers. The first and the highest offer in terms of price has the highest seller carry. And just because I'm a bit of a smartass, I like to make that their asking price because I can say, I gave you what you wanted, give me the rest. You wanted
Yeah.
this, I'm giving it to you. This is how I get there. If you don't like that, then we have to knock everything else down.
So do you
The
just
price-
focus on creative mostly?
Sorry?
Do you
Sorry?
focus on creative financing?
I don't see why you shouldn't at least offer it. That's my thought process. Will I
Okay.
only buy creative? No. If a deal's a deal and
Mhm.
it makes sense, I don't care how we got there. I'm not a greedy person. If I can pay more and it makes sense for everyone, I'll do it. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, if I can't get to your number or your objective selling the property without creative, I don't know how else to get there. Like I can't change the numbers, for example, like I was saying before. And then my second offer is going to be always a little less seller carry and a little lower of a price. And then depending on the scenario, my third offer is always going to be just a traditional offer because that's what that's the offer they're most likely getting anyway. I'm like, look, I'm aligned with the market. That's my traditional offer. But look at what else I can do. And just real quick to answer the question, because we're running low on time, that Paulette asked, seller carries essentially when I would ask the seller to carry a note that essentially become the lender or the bank, hypothetically, for example, for a portion of the deal. Now, what that means, for example, in this example or this deal, you have a 67 or 63% leverage loan. So that's first position. The loan is there, we're not getting rid of it, we're inheriting it. The remaining 37%, I don't want to come up with that all out of pocket. So what I'll tell the seller, like, hey, I'll come in 20%. That remaining 17%, instead of me offering to pay you less, which is gonna happen if they don't carry, I'm just gonna offer you 20% or 15% less than you're asking because I don't want to come up with that money, right? Or it doesn't make the deal work. Is I'll say, hey, seller, carry the remaining 17%. And I will pay them a much lower interest rate than they probably want to hear, because every offer I send out starts at 2%. And I tell them to carry for 10 years. And at the end of the 10 years, I've paid them 2% of interest every year on the loan amount, on the seller carry amount. And I will pay the balance in 10 years. If they don't like it, cool. I'm just going to offer a much lower price. And that's just, it is what it is. So I hope that answered that question. And I'll go more into detail on that on another call. Obviously, we're wrapping up here shortly. David, anything else before, or anyone else have any other last second questions? I'll give you guys like 2 more minutes, I guess.
No, I don't think so. I mean, really, I looked at that deal. I kind of just did like a little bit of preliminary underwriting.
Awesome.
And really, I was just wondering about that assumable loan, like how you guys would approach that, because it seemed like the numbers didn't make sense to me, right? With like the cap rate. So I was like, maybe
Sure.
they do make sense with the assumable. So,
David, hey, let's chat offline, and Alden and I, we'd love to jump on a call with you, man, and we can kind of talk a little bit more about that. So just shoot Aldo, Ed, and I an email, and we'll try and set something up with you and talk a little bit more.
cool, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. I know we're 1 minute over, but Jaden, I appreciate you what you've been doing this evening. Yeah, feel free to jump in here really quick.
Hey, yeah, so just something to note on that assumable loan. Ask the broker two main questions. Ask him how long is if it's a bridge loan, how long is it an interest only? And I know Ed already kind of touched on that. And if it's only like a couple of years, I'd be pretty leery if there's not a rate cap. So that's the second question, is ask if there was a rate cap, so that once that bridge loan is ended, what's the rate going to go to? Because that'll tell you how much your debt's going to increase. So you'll know if it's still going to make sense. Otherwise, if it's going to raise, if there's no rate cap, I wouldn't want to touch it without knowing. If I didn't have a magic ball telling me what the future held in a couple of years, I think it'd be dangerous to take something on like that.
To be honest,
So that's my 2 cents.
I agree with you. At that point, I'd honestly just try to get a loan agreement. Everyone has to have one, like it's your loan. And if it's assumable, you just ask the lender, hey, give me a loan agreement. It's 180 pages, and I'm not here trying to scare anyone. I can tell you the exact page number that you'll find the information that you need, that Jaden was just mentioning. And if the broker doesn't know what that is, good luck. I'm sorry, that's gonna be an uphill battle. Tell them to give you the lender's number. But the loan agreement has everything you need. So if they have that or have access to that, that's the best place to go, because it's the document from the lender. Also, remember, any assumable loan is going to have a fee on top. Just keep in mind, 1%, very normal. It's not a big deal. But I definitely thank you, Jada, for jumping in and adding that, because it's very easy to get caught up of the interest rate and like get tunnel vision, and you forget like there's so many other components. Prepayment penalty, XYZ. So before I keep rambling, because you guys all know I love to, thank you all so much for coming tonight. This hour flew by. That was crazy. Like it felt like 10 to me. So thank you all again. You know where to find us. We'll be here every Tuesday night. Please come with your questions. Please reach out to us offline. Don't forget, tomorrow we're gonna be here. We have a call as well with the Freedom Tracer community. Tomorrow is our debt Zoom, correct?
That's
Will?
right. Yeah.
Awesome. So make sure you're here. That will be at 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't be late. Make sure you come in and support. And you're gonna get amazing value. I can guarantee that. And yeah, let's rock and roll. All right. So have a good one. Sorry, no music again. Our DJ was off for the night. Trust me, you don't want to hear me sing. So peace out. Enjoy your
Guys,
Tuesday. Love
thanks
you
for
guys.
coming. Good seeing you all. Cheers.